Well, hands down, one of the most controversial things that have sparked out of the Charlie Kirk assassination is people's opinion about Candace Owens. And in this case, it turns out that the producer of the Charlie Kirk show, why is it the producer of the Charlie Kirk show who is doing this? But I don't know. Blake Neff, I have analyzed Blake Neff in the past, and all my analysis, especially about the Mikey McCoy behavior that doesn't make sense. Blake Neff basically is challenging Candace Owens to appear live for a discussion about, well, pretty much everything that she has put out there. And he recorded this. I'm pretty sure that he was trying to address that post that Candace shared yesterday. And I'm gonna read this. I received information last night that put the final pieces together for me. I now can say with full confidence that I believe Charlie Kirk was, and the important word is betrayed by the leadership of Turning Point USA and some of the very people who eulogized him on stage. Yes, I will be naming names and providing evidence for my claims. And I am making a personal plea to every well-meaning person who donated to this godforsaken organization to request a refund. You were lied to, and leadership knew. Well, I did not watch Candace Owens' show. I know that many of my body language buddies watch Candace's show. And I noticed that in X, some people were saying that she did not deliver the receipts that she was talking about here, but I will let you decide in the comments. You can jump to them already talking about that, but I want to address what Blake Neff said about this. And this is interesting. The reaction is interesting because he kind of confirms things that Candace Owens has said repeatedly, and of course denies others. So let's take a look at his statement, and it's gonna be a complete he's gonna read through all of that. That is important to remember, but we're gonna analyze his statement and his body language as well.
We wanted to
sorry about the sound. Okay, fix the sound. Oh my God.
We wanted to use this segment at the top of this hour to say something important, something very important. For the past 2.5 months, there is a topic that has flooded our Freedom inbox. It has been nonstop on social media, but which we have almost totally avoided on this show. You probably already know what I'm talking about, which shows just how ubiquitous it has been. Ever since Charlie's murder, Candace Owens has leveled a flood of allegations against people at Turning Point USA, people at Turning Point Action, and people who work for this show. She's made them against some of Charlie's closest friends and against some of his most dedicated employees.
Well, I think that I see no lies in here. Candace has been really intense on her show about everything. I think that she has made like 30 shows already about the Charlie Kirk topic.
She has suggested that Michael McCoy, Charlie's chief of staff, knew Charlie would be murdered, was happy that he died, and stayed silent because he was told he would be the next Charlie. She has suggested Michael is not his real name. It is. I have seen his birth certificate myself.
Well, I have to say that maybe you haven't checked my 3-part analysis of Mikey McCoy's odd behavior. Maybe this is the time to watch it, because yes, I could disagree with Candace in a lot of stuff, but she did not mention Mikey McCoy's behavior, but it really did not make sense. So maybe she did, but I really don't watch her shows. Maybe you can enlighten me in the comments.
She has called it suspicious that Mikey's wife, who works at Turning Point, helped plan the campus tour event where Charlie was murdered, which she didn't, by the way. She doesn't work on campus events.
Why mention this if what would be the problem to plan the campus event? But, well, all right.
Candace has suggested the Utah Valley University event was unusual, and its details suggested a, quote, inside job.
Okay, again, another remark that he is dismissing. If is a dismissible remark, then why mention it? I mean, in this kind of statements, you have to make sure to go for the heavy stuff right out of the gate. It's like I think that he's wasting time on things that he could just not mention. There are other things that he's going to mention that are more relevant to this.
She has claimed that foreign aircraft have followed Erica Kirk around the country,
Like
and
this?
that Turning Point has lied about this happening. She has accused us of lying about Charlie wanting Erica to take over for him if he died.
That's something that I really haven't seen Candace expressly saying that Erica had a vested interest on Charlie Kirk being dead or she being a co-conspirator or everything. Again, that's why I stress that word, betrayed. Betrayed can be a number of things. Betrayed can be I've told you in other analysis that Candace is really smart in many ways. That's undeniable. She is smart in the way that she can keep asking questions, as she says, as I ask a question about Jack Black. If you have watched my show, why is Jack Black not being actively investigated? But she knows how to phrase and frame the stuff to basically continue something that never gets to the point. We want to get to the point, and I guess that's why we get this kind of replies, that the replies in themselves sounds like they make no sense.
She has suggested Charlie's security team intentionally denied him first aid after the shooting to ensure that he died. She has raised suspicions about the head of our technical team because he took an SD card out of a camera.
To be fair, I raised the same suspicions because, well, we saw that video like the very next day. Like, it was what, less than 5 minutes after Charlie Kirk was shot. Somebody just, handling the camera. We were actually concerned about that. So that was an actual concern.
She has spread absurd claims that Tyler Boyer, who we just had on the show, sexually abuses male interns.
I don't know what the we just had in the show had to do with that. Again, it's an odd way of who wrote this, man? Who wrote this?
She has suggested that TPUSA faith-affiliated pastors, like theologian Frank Turek, who we'll have on in a moment, and Pastor Rob McCoy, are part of a military, quote, infiltration of Turning Point, either because they are veterans or because they have family members who are. Even if not everyone has been named specifically, though, Candace has effectively tarred everyone here with complicity in Charlie's death by repeatedly saying he was, quote, betrayed by, quote, everyone.
That's what she has been saying. She has said that word betrayed in a number of updates. Not only in that update yesterday, but in fact, that's that word. I know that she has said that word on her show because I've seen the clips and I've seen her updates on X. So she uses that word repeatedly. I mean, that is the way that she kind of frames what happens to Charlie Kirk. And the perks of the word betrayed is that it's kind of vague. It's kind of a vague word.
She has said Charlie's murder, quote, had to be approved by Charlie's friends, and then suggested those friends might have her murdered too for, quote, knowing the truth. She has made claims of financial impropriety and fraud at Turning Point, adding up into the millions of dollars, which, again, is not true.
Well, I made a video commentary about Walls and Finances video. I don't know if you watched a video that I posted yesterday. Very interesting breakdown not only of the money that went to Tyler Boyer was just mentioned, but also this 110 company, which is owned by a Republican senator in Arizona, which the address leads to nowhere, to a strip mall in the middle of nowhere. So, yes, The questions, there are legitimate questions to be asked about this.
Charlie made sure the organization was audited by a third party every year. He personally reviewed and he signed off on every expense report and literally every single bill paid by the organization down to a single United States dollar.
Too bad that Charlie is no longer here to, well, basically defend that claim.
We have never missed a 990 deadline. Candace has made other stranger allegations involving French paratroopers in maroon shirts, Egyptian Air Force planes flying out of Provo, Utah, and potential underground assassins traveling through unseen tunnels. At one point in early November, she started wildly throwing suspicion on members of Utah Valley's soccer team for wearing hoodies.
I mean, I remember the other day I told you that there's some things that I simply was not going to address in my videos. And one of the things that I was not going to address was that that theory of the exploding microphone. And I saw, up to today, I saw one guy on X saying, don't you find it suspicious that Charlie Kirk had one microphone in his hand and also had a microphone in his chest? Why did he have two microphones? And somebody said the obvious: one microphone is for the PA for the event itself, and the other is to have a clean audio recording for social media. Oh no, they were they were not satisfied with that answer. You cannot please everyone, and that is one of the issues with crazy stuff out there. And yes, that is one of the theories that I simply did not address because, man, that I told you that is not how physics work. But again, we can continue.
I could go on. There is always something new coming up, and none of it ever pans out because from the start, there has been nothing there. The attacks and allegations from Candace are either lies or they are innuendos thrown around with a total, reckless disregard for the truth so that Candace can manipulate and string along an audience of people who don't realize they are being played. Instead of being able to grieve properly after one of the most heinous murders in American history, a murder many of us had to witness, my friends have had to endure harassment from people who have gotten whipped up by what Candace is saying.
Just in case, because this concerns me as well, I have made videos in my channel asking questions about what has happened, about the behavior of people, but at no point I have told anybody to reach out to anybody in any way, shape, or form. I think this is important. I want to make that disclaimer because I think, at least in my case, is not the in any way the intention behind my channel or my videos or my opinions. And I can make a good guess, even if I haven't watched Candace Owens shows, that she hasn't called for anybody to go on an email and call and harass or anything. Most of the time, people just do it by themselves. Sadly, that's a thing. You could say that Candace Owens asking questions, Candace Owens making these claims is a factor, as for example, Alex Jones was back in the day with the Sandy Hook stuff. But sadly, when you have this huge audiences, that is something that's going to happen. That's something that's going to happen at some point. You can prevent that. I wouldn't like to have in my conscience that anybody listening to me does something crazy. So I make sure to do that, to make that disclaimer. But I don't know. We know that these social media times are crazy times. This is not 2010 anymore.
In fact, I would say we have suffered more harassment from these people than we have from Antifa supporters who overtly celebrate Charlie's murder. And just like a lot of those Antifa members, many of these people take this delight in how gross and unpleasant they can be. What our friends have had to endure is not funny, and it's not insignificant. It is evil. I have seen it. For months, we have received hundreds, thousands, I suspect, emails and calls asking us to respond. people have wanted us to invite Candace on the show.
That is a great idea, actually.
But for a long time, our approach was to say nothing. We did that for several reasons. First, we thought that her prevarications were so absurd that nobody would believe them. We shouldn't have to answer questions about secret tunnels or Egyptian Air Force planes.
Or exploding microphones, for that matter. But I don't know if she talked about that.
That sort of thing is just, it's beneath contempt to respond to. The second reason we've said so little, though, is because there's a good rule of thumb, which Charlie followed. Do not feed the trolls. Focus on the mission.
Okay, there's a thing here. He says that Charlie says, do not feed the trolls. But there's going to be a contradiction with what he's about to say in a minute.
Reviving America, uplifting young people, making heaven crowded. Don't give air to people who want to tear you down and sow discord. Lastly, we didn't respond because Charlie always viewed Candace as a friend. And
you notice the pause that he made before saying that Charlie actually saw Candace as a friend. He said, in his own words, I'm going to repeat.
People who want to tear you down and sow discord. Lastly, we didn't respond because Charlie always viewed Candace as a friend.
And this is something that many people have said that is false. That how come Candace is doing this to Charlie? Candace was never a real friend of Charlie. No friend of Charlie could be doing this to him. And this is the kind of things that I told people. It's very hard to prove, especially if the person is no longer around. If Charlie Kirk is not around, the only one that can answer that question is no longer around, is dead. So if Candace claimed that she was a close friend of Charlie Kirk, many people say that that was not true. I decided to not say anything about that precisely because I had no proof of confirmation or denial of that. But now you heard from this guy, from Blake himself, that Charlie always viewed Candace as a friend. So it doesn't get more clear than this. So yes, I told you that he was going to confirm some things that Candace Owens had said. I think this is the most important of them all. He is assuming that, and that pause before saying that tells a lot.
And we were holding out hope that she would return that friendship and stop what she was doing. But a week from now, it's going to be 3 months since Charlie's murder. Candace has not changed her behavior. She has continued to spread falsehoods about Charlie's friends, and she continues to concoct new ones about new people. She's using these falsehoods to enrich herself while dividing the conservative movement at an absolutely critical time for this country.
Okay, wait a second. This is something that I want to ask, and this is my question to you as well. He said that this is to divide the conservative movement. Do you think that this is actually dividing the conservative movement? I mean, is the Candace Owens and TPUSA scandal, soap opera, manipulation, asking question, whatever you want to call it, you think this actually dividing the conservative movement? Because I can tell you many ways the conservative movement can be divided. One of them is the natural way conservatives naturally divide over topics. I mean, I know that it sounds, I have a faulty light. I know I have to fix that thing. I know that this can sound like I am trying to cover up for Candace. I am not. But it's something natural, has been in the conservative movement, that I think that I am a conservative and I can have different ideas from Matt Walsh, for example, that I mention a lot on this show. I agree a lot with Matt Walsh. Maybe I don't like Ben Shapiro, for example. I agree with most of what Megyn Kelly says. From the UK, I disagree with some things that Piers Morgan says. I agree with some things that he says. That is natural. It's not that we are a hive mind or something. That is not the way of thinking. So it's natural to be divided over stuff because that's how, well, the conversation and argument actually thrives. And that's what Charlie Kirk stood for argumentation, for let's battle with ideas instead of bullets. Because you know what, otherwise it's just a sect, and nobody wants to be in a sect. That's the difference. So again, well, let's keep watching. We have a bit, it's less than 1 minute left.
And far too often, we here have heard from ordinary people who loved Charlie and who Charlie loved so much in return. These people have expressed the worry that we are staying silent out of cowardice or as some sort of tacit admission that some of the attacks are true. Neither is the case. Our silence has never been, and it will never be, equal to complacency or approval. Still, we decided Charlie would not allow this to go on.
Wait a second. But Charlie is not here. I mean, this words is you are basically hiding behind the figure that cannot defend himself. Still, we decided Charlie would not allow this to go on. I mean, I can understand how English works like as a metaphor for this, but you notice that you cannot decide how somebody would have reacted, especially if that somebody is the figure that you're using to defend your argument. It's like you have a higher figure. You're using Charlie Kirk's figure to defend your argument. That's not how an argument is defended. Your argument should be sustained in itself and not to have to recur to people who cannot approve or deny your argument. Maybe Charlie Kirk would have acted that way, but I think it's weak to say, oh, we are doing what Charlie would have done in this case. Why don't you just act the way that you know it is right to do so, and you're doing this because of you, not because of Charlie Kirk, who is not here anymore.
Charlie was not a coward. Charlie was a fighter. Charlie would not allow someone to spread lies about the people closest to him with impunity, and he would feel ashamed if other people were stepping up to defend his friends while he never did so himself.
But you already said that Charlie Kirk was against feeding the trolls, and you also said that most of that Candace Owens had been saying is nonsense and not even worthy of addressing. So which one is it? That is a problem. You got yourself between a rock and a hard place. Which one of the two is it? Does Candace Owens' argument make sense? So you have to address them, or Candace Owens don't make sense, so you should follow Charlie Kirk's advice, do not feed the trolls. Again, and this is like, in either way, Charlie Kirk would have done this. But again, I have to repeat that one more time. Charlie Kirk is not here to defend his position on this topic. That is the main problem. In general, that is the main problem in general. I think that they don't have a Candace Owens problem. I mean, I haven't run the numbers, but I don't know to what extent Candace Owens, with her audience, if you measure TPUSA's audience and Candace Owens' audience, if you pit those audience one against another, if we are talking about equal numbers, because I think that TPUSA is massive in many ways. It's massive, and I don't know to what extent. Even if Candace Owens has millions of views, we know that not all of those views are people of that support Candace Owens. There must be a lot of hate watching in there. I can guarantee you that at least 20% are hate watchers, and there are people watching Candace Owens from abroad as well. So not all those millions of views are from the United States. So to what extent, this is my question to you as well, do you think that Candace Owens is an actual threat to TPUSA? And if TPUSA is saying that Candace Owens is dividing the conservative movement, is that really TPUSA's work to do to try to undo that kind of influence that she's gotten the destruction of the conservative movement? Doesn't TPUSA have enough problems already with all that they have to do without Charlie Kirk? I don't know. I'm seeing this. I'm trying to analyze this from statement perspective, communications perspective. I know that they're in this are in this kind of threat, but they just stepped into Streisand effect territory. They just openly acknowledged the power of Candace Owens, and now they want her to. Let's finish the clip.
Candace has mentioned several times that the ball is in our court. So here's what is going to happen. In the near future, there will be a live stream here in Phoenix where we address in a clear and comprehensive way the claims and accusations, the false accusations that have been made against Charlie's family, friends, and the people here at Turning Point. We plan to walk through everything carefully and thoroughly. If Candace is available, we would sincerely welcome her participation in that live stream at our studio here in Phoenix. At this point, we believe the ball is back in her court. Our motivation for doing this is not out of any obligation to Candace. It is about honoring Charlie. We feel a deep responsibility to protect his legacy, his work, and the truth. I feel that. I owe Charlie everything in my life. I feel it immensely. And that is why we feel compelled to speak clearly and openly now. We'll have more on this in the near future.
We'll have more of this in the near future, but what's going to happen is that you don't need a crystal ball to know that Candace Owens most likely is going to politely decline the invitation. She's not going to accept the invitation for any sort of reason. It would be nice if she accepted the invitation. Maybe she doesn't want to be in the studio for, maybe she can allege security reasons or whatever, but she could be remotely in her studio and be on that live stream, and she been safe at home at wherever her studio is. That would be a way to do that. So I don't know how can she actually deny the participation, but she has all the right in the world to deny this participation. Again, this has been, from my perspective, I'd like to see this from a human behavior perspective, how people are driven for a number of narratives. Not only Candace Owens asks questions, as she says, but so much stuff that is out there that in so many ways can be instantly disproven. At the same time, that yes, there are a lot of holes that we would like more explanations. The whole acted alone, not only Tyler Robinson but Thomas Crooks, but it's becoming a joke at this point. I mean, I like to ask questions myself. I don't like baseless conspiracy theories, although I would keep an eye on Jack Black. But I really would like to know. Most important thing is, what do you think? What do you make of all of this? In the comments, I've asked, I have demanded from you a lot today, but really this topic is fascinating to say the least. I'm pretty sure that it's gonna pop up. Let's see what Candace Owens replies to this. It's going to be interesting to watch. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Body Language Guy. Much love and bliss.